On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder are set to open up Las Vegas Summer League action. Ousmane Dieng will not be there. Let's talk about that and the Thunder's grouping for the NBA Cup.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member and Thunder beat writer for Inside the Thunder, Sports Illustrated Thunder, Rylan Styles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder beginning their Vegas Summer League without Ousmane Dieng. He will not be there. We'll talk about that. We're going to grade Salt Lake City Summer League. We're going to preview Vegas' Summer League. And the Thunder have been placed into the NBA Cup group. So the NBA Cup is now replacing the NBA in-season tournament. So we'll talk about that as well. We also have a jam-packed week of shows coming your way. There are plenty of guests from the draft space, from the Thunder universe, Brian Rabar, Michael Martin. You have the draft guys like Richard Stayman. We're going to have Keenan Womack from Draft Digest on Sports Illustrated. We're going to have a lot of different characters coming in and kind of giving us shows for next week. Monday, though, is a Mailbag Monday. We're going to recap that first Summer League game against the Raptors on Saturday. We're going to recap that on Monday in a Mailbag podcast. So get your questions in with a mailbag edition of Locked On Thunder on Twitter at Rylan_Styles, and also on the YouTube comment section, Locked On Thunder YouTube channel, which is where you can also find your show. But we're going to have a lot of good guests next week. The vast majority of the reason why we're going to have a lot of good guests on is because they're awesome and they're great guests to talk to. A small percentage of why we're having a lot of guests on next week is to let you in on a peek behind the curtain. We're recording like 4 shows Sunday and Monday because Monday night I will become a multi-time national champion with the Kansas Jayhawks in college football 25. So gonna be a little busy this upcoming week, but you're still gonna get shows and they're gonna be shows that are really, really fun and really good. Now let's talk about the in-season tournament with the NBA Cup. So from now on, it'll be referenced as the NBA Cup instead of the in-season tournament. I would have preferred them to just like make this switch last year, like in the first season, because this was always like a very great name for it. I think that the first time, like a lot of people referred to it as this, but Front Office Show with Keith Smith and Trevor Lane, they've referred to it as NBA Cup for the longest time. And I just love the name. And I think that it's much more simpler and smoother to talk about. But here are the groups. So it's the same kind of formula as the groupings for last year of like the last 3 seasons record. And then you kind of pick, 4 teams or whatever, 6 teams or whatever, split by 3, all within conference for all 30 teams. So the Western Conference groups, because we don't particularly care about the East, we do have Locked On NBA. We do have Locked On blank for all 30 NBA teams. So you can go check those out for those group breakdowns. But the NBA Cup for the West, Group A is Minnesota, the Clippers, the Kings, the Rockets, the Trailblazers. Group B is Oklahoma City, Phoenix, the Lakers, the Jazz, and the Spurs. Group C is Denver, Dallas, New Orleans, Golden State, and Memphis. So when you look at these groups all laid out, the one thing I think that the NBA did an incredible job of with these groups is creating drama, creating storylines. Yeah, Group A, I think, is by far the easiest group because I'm just not sold on the Rockets making some leap. I'm not sold on, of course, the Blazers. And then I think that with the Clippers, the loss of Paul George and like that team is just, are we convinced fully that Kawhi and company will take the regular season seriously? And, for the purpose of the in-season tournament, like if you miss a couple of games of group play, that's kind of all she wrote for you in terms of advancing to win this cup. So I think that West A, by far the easiest. But you look at the other groups, I think West C is by far the hardest. Like, that is the group of death across both conferences. Like, this is the hardest that you'll see. And the East, of course, can't really be that hard because it's the Eastern Conference, although I do think that East A is really tough with the Sixers, Magic, Knicks, Nets, and Hornets. But West C, you have Jokic versus Luka. That's extremely fun. You have Klay Thompson against Golden State. That's going to be a marquee game. You have Zion and Ja. And then from there, you just kind of, spin it around of like Ja versus Luka. And you have, Zion and Luka. You have all these like superstars. You have all these teams that I think are really high quality teams. Like, would it surprise you if every single team from West C made the playoffs? And by playoffs, let's extend that to the play-in tournament. I don't think it'd shock you. Obviously, the odds say that like someone has to fall out of that realm because you're also going to take some teams from West B and West A. But when you look at West C, I am a firm believer in Memphis. And if you listen to the show, you know that I was not high on Zach Edey coming into this draft as a prospect. I do think, though, that there are prospects who like the environment and the fit matters. He's one of them. And that fit in Memphis is phenomenal. He could not, I don't think, have dreamed up a better fit for himself than playing in Memphis alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. to help him with his defensive limitations, playing with a team that's already used to, and like whenever they play at their best as a core, they played with Jonas Valanciunas, they played with Steven Adams when they were playing at their best. So like you have Ja, you have Desmond, you have JJJ, like these are guys that are used to playing next to a more heavy-legged center, who can only play in drop coverage and is, a good roll threat, but a really good screener to earn separation. So I think that that's a perfect fit for him. It makes Memphis really good. I'm all in on Memphis Grizzlies if they're healthy and, of course, on the court. And so that's their like weakest draw by the record thing, but that is not, they're not the weakest team in terms of like when they're actually a finished product. And then you can never discount the Warriors as long as they have Steph Curry. Like you can talk about how down they'll be this year comparatively to their dynasty run. They're no longer a dynastic team, but they're still a force to be reckoned with at any given moment. And then we know what the Nuggets are. We know what the Mavericks are. And the Pelicans, I don't buy into them as a playoff contender. I think that it's great that they're trying, making the moves from Murray. It's good that they're trying, but they're still too reliant, on Yves Missi, who I don't know that he'll be ready. Like I think that they're trying to capture that lightning in a bottle that the Thunder did, that the Mavericks did with rookie big men. But there's a reason why those things are an anomaly. There's a reason why those things got hyped up as much as they did this season of like with the Mavericks and Thunder being able to count on young big men. It's because that hardly ever happens. And I don't think that Yves Missi is one of those guys that will make it happen this year as like one of your lone bigs on the roster. So I don't buy them as like a contender. I do buy them as a fun regular season team that you do not want to play. And then Jokic and Murray, Luka, Kyrie. And Dallas, they've made some interesting changes to their roster. I don't foresee them have gotten worse. I don't know how much better that they've gotten, but I don't think they've gotten worse by any stretch. They've at worst stayed the same. And I think you can give them a touch better whenever you factor in the Luka curve of like, yeah, maybe heads up right now. You think that DJJ is a better player than Najee Marshall. Let Najee Marshall play a season with Luka, and then let's see what you think about him. And I think that that'll kind of go up for him. So I think that it's indisputable that West C is the toughest group. And while West B is a friendlier draw for the Thunder, by no means does it lack storylines. By no means does it lack drama. And while the Thunder should come out of it, it's going to be a dogfight. And we'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Betterhelp. Check out Betterhelp today and go there and get started right now because Betterhelp is awesome. Betterhelp is there for you because I think at times, you could always benefit from getting something off your chest, not letting it fester with you. And whenever you look at Betterhelp, it brings you all the benefits of therapy. And for me, one of the things that's like stopped me from therapy in the past is just like, oh, I'm too busy. I can't go to a brick and mortar like office and go get the help I need there. I don't know where to look. I don't know where to go. And I'm too busy. Where BetterHelp comes in is BetterHelp is therapy and the benefits of it all online, all designed for your convenience, for your flexibility, and suited for your schedule. So you go fill out the brief questionnaire and it matches you with a licensed therapist and you can switch therapists at any time with no additional charge. So you can, look and get things off your chest with BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedInNBA today to get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedInNBA today to get started with a 10% off your first month at BetterHelp. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Well, let's talk about it. The Oklahoma City Thunder and their group. So we've set it up. I again, do not think we need to spend much time on Group A. We spent a lot on Group C, but Group B, the Thunder, Suns, Lakers, Jazz, Spurs. Let's only look at this from a Thunder aspect. And then, you can go check out Locked On Suns, Locked On Lakers, Locked On Jazz, Locked On Spurs for their aspect of this group. From a Thunder aspect of it, the Suns. As of this moment, they've done nothing but try to run it back as best they can. And they're still going to have Booker, Beal, Durant. So you're going to see, a KD versus the Thunder regular season game that does have a tinge more meaning. And I think that the way that the Lakers handled the first ever in-season tournament and the way that they raised the banner and the way that they competed for it, and the way that LeBron embraced it, I think that those things will, like, as the time goes, I think that those things will show you that this NBA Cup, it will never reach the status of the Larry O'Brien Trophy, of course, but it will feel important. And I think starting this year, it'll feel important after you've seen how the players have taken to it and reacted to it. And so having Kevin Durant come to town in this, going to be a funky court probably. I mean, I imagine that they keep that around in some capacity. That's just a complete guess. But I imagine in some capacity, they'll have a funky court. Going to be some new uniforms, I'm sure, to go along with it, just like they were last year. But that's another guess. But at the end of the day, it'll be a game that counts for double because these are still regular season games that are also trying to get you to the NBA Cup playoffs and eventually the NBA Cup championship. And you also, in Oklahoma City, see a team that cares about the regular season, that cares about competing no matter what. At every level, at every stage, at every point of the season, they showed you that they care and that this is one of the teams that care the most in the NBA. It's how they got it to 57 wins last year. So right off the bat, you're going to see Kevin Durant and the Suns come to town. Love them or hate them or think they're good or not or contenders or not, that's a tough game. Then you got the Utah Jazz coming to town, which doesn't have like the sex appeal of the Lakers or Wembanyama or the Kevin Durant example. But again, as of this moment, the Jazz have kind of just hung out for the most part. They've made really good draft selections. Like I really enjoy their best player available strategy. But this was a middling team last year that I think will still be middling. And now they have Lauri Markkanen. They have Cody Williams, brother of Jalen Williams. It's like you have that interesting drama storyline aspect of things. And they're not a complete, just utter pushover as they're currently constructed. Then you know about the Spurs. The NBA has made no bones about it. They've tried to hide it, not at all, of how much that they're pushing that rivalry and pushing that, kind of clash between the Thunder and Wembanyama, Chet and Wembanyama. Like they want that to be the thing and the it thing. And for the second straight year, you find yourself in the same grouping as Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. So that needs no introduction. And let me tell you, that will be the Spurs Super Bowl. And I don't say that in a disingenuous way. I don't say that as a way to pick at our good friends at Locked On Spurs and the Locked On Podcast Network. I say that as this Spurs team, they've made some savvy moves. I love Chris Paul. You saw what he did for this young Thunder team back in 2020. I really like Harrison Barnes as a tool to have next to Wembanyama. They've made some savvy moves, but this season is about utilizing those veterans to make life easier to continue to mold these young guys. So possibly they have this jump and this leap that we're not expecting in the tough Western Conference, as Chris Paul's been a part of a couple of times. But in reality, on paper right now, you're looking at just a more competent team that's trying to make life simpler for young guys. This will be one of their biggest games on their calendar. This will be a circle of the NBA schedule, specifically for the Spurs. And the thing about the in-season tournament and the NBA Cup that you look at, it happens on Tuesdays and Fridays in November, and this time it leaks into December a little bit, but it happens on Tuesdays and Fridays in November, and it starts on November 12th. There's not a ton of runway before that, to where like this might be one of the first just boom games for the Spurs, depending on how the schedule shakes out. So you're going to get the Spurs' best shot, and that fan base's best shot. Oklahoma City is a great fan base. They'll pack the Paycom Center as much as possible for every game. That Spurs fan base is not guaranteed any big games next year. Barring something dramatic happening, like some strange, unheard of circumstances with injuries, like the Thunder are going to have playoff games next year. They're going to have games to look forward to. This is the date for the Spurs to look forward to. That will be a hostile environment. That'll be a competitive game. That'll be one that Wembanyama wants to win, no matter how often that Chet plays the proper game of casting away the individual rivalry. Once he gets on the court, it's very clear the way that he shows emotion in those games against Wembanyama, how much that means to him. This will be a get your popcorn ready game in San Antonio. And oh yeah, the team we haven't talked about yet is LeBron James and the Lakers. It's LeBron James in the purple and gold with JJ Redick on the sidelines. It's podcaster versus coach of the year. AD LeBron, who everyone spent the entire last season shaking in their boots of the possibility of the Thunder playing in the playoffs last year. It's those guys against the Thunder in the artist formerly known as the Staples Center. This is a easier group than Group C. It's still a competitive group, and it's still a heck of a lot of fun. Because let's see what that looks like. Again, last year, the Thunder won 57 games, and everybody was shaking about that possible first-round matchup as a potential 8-1 upset. So now you throw Hartenstein in the mix. The Thunder have kind of made adjustments. What does that matchup look like? That's one of the most, that's one of the biggest benchmarks that the Thunder will face this year is like when you play Minnesota, when you play Dallas, when you play LA, what does it look like? How does it function compared to last year? This is going to be a ton of fun. The Thunder are a bunch of competitors where they're going to take this seriously and they're going to try to win it, and they have a good shot to win it. So again, group play will be November 12th through December 3rd. The knockout round, the first, quarterfinals happens, in market. That'll be December 10 through 11. And then you move on to Vegas for the Final Four on December 14th and the championship on December 17th. The Thunder are in a good spot to be playing in Las Vegas. I don't know if you book your flights yet, but you get on the Delta app. You get on the Delta app and you start, checking it out. Because that could be a special Christmas in Las Vegas. There's a good song, Christmas in Kansas City. I'm sure that there's a song about Christmas in Vegas. And if there's not, well, then just go watch Viva Las Vegas with Elvis Presley and Margaret. And then listen to Viva Las Vegas by Elvis, which is, of course, the theme of the movie. I will say, Joe Mazzato loves Viva Las Vegas. Him and Derek Parker. I showed both of them that movie whenever we were in Dallas for the playoffs. That's what we were doing at night. I'm sure that there was more fun activities, but we watched Viva Las Vegas with some nice beverages and hung out. Anyway, coming up, Ousmane Dieng's not playing Summer League. How did Salt Lake City go? And what can you look forward to with Vegas? But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at eBay Motors, folks. eBay Motors is great because they know that passion, drive, patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up the peak performances, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. So you can go check them out today at ebaymotors.com. eBay, guaranteed fit, 122 parts to choose from for your number one ride or die candidate. Go there right now. Keep your ride or die alive at eBay Motors. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. We've talked a lot about the NBA Cup. Let's talk about Summer League. First and foremost, Ousmane Dieng is not going to play in the Vegas schedule, which, I see a lot of people, having these strong opinions about it. Here's the deal. The Thunder play in 2 summer leagues every year. He's played in 3 games already. The Thunder have no shortage of, opportunity of evaluating Ousmane Dieng. He got exceptional runway for the G League team last year. He played it, he played his first year in both stints, of course. He has a lot of film there. And he has 3 summer league games. This is not abnormal. There's no tinfoil hat to put on. There are no tea leaves to read through and purse through. It is what it is. Now, selfishly, as someone who has to talk about Summer League, would I prefer that we get more Ousmane Dieng minutes than Cormac Ryan minutes? Of course. It's more fun. You guys care about it more. You guys will listen to it more. And then that's what I care about. But from a team standpoint, I don't think that you can infer anything from this. He played 3 games. He had 1, disappointing game, depending on how you look at it, as we broke it down fully on Monday. I think that was Tuesday, actually. And then he had 2 other games in Salt Lake City on Tuesday and Wednesday where, he took a step forward, looked more comfortable, looked more like his G League self. The thing that I would say to those freaking out in either direction, like either you think that the Thunder just are done with Ous, or that they think that he's awesome. What would have happened if he dropped a triple-double Saturday? He's playing Jonathan Magbo and the Toronto Raptors. You wouldn't care. Like that wouldn't sway your opinion of who Ous is, what the plan for him next year is, what it looks like, what it feels like, your thoughts on his career to this point. He has 3 summer league games under his belt, which is, if the Thunder didn't play in Salt Lake City, all he was going to play in Vegas anyway. Because you look around the league, this is how things go. And I know that you can get tunnel vision on the Thunder because listen, it's tough to watch the whole league and watch all 30 teams and see how they're doing business. So, you focus on one team. Every team does this. You look around and you see like the Grizzlies didn't play Zach Edey the last 2 Salt Lake City games because they want to showcase him in Vegas for the league and for their partners. But you only play your guys 2 or 3 summer league games, especially older guys. Like Jake LaRavia played well tonight for Memphis. I don't think he's going to play again. Ous had 2 good summer league games in back-to-back games. He played 3 games in 3 days. And the thing that you're missing from Ous is not game reps against G League caliber players or against rookies. The thing you're missing from Ous is you can maximize this time more in practice with hands-on instructional and developmental time and things of that nature. Because you've seen it. You've seen Ous in this setting. And there are some fun names at Summer League every year. I love Jonathan Magbo. I love Jacoby Walter. I think this will be a fun game against Toronto. But if he carves them up, we'll spend a lot of time with the Raptors 905. Okay. So again, I think that selfishly, of course, you want to see Ous play every single day because he's one of the guys. He's one of the guys that frankly. You're not signing up to watch Cormac Ryan. You want to watch as many people that you believe can impact the Thunder as you can. And so from that part of it, I totally get the frustration or the disappointment. But I wouldn't go making any inferences about the Thunder and about Oos or whatever based on this decision. It's pretty status quo. It's pretty typical. It's a typical Summer League vehicle. But there are still storylines to follow for this Thunder team in Summer League. One, how much longer does Dillon Jones play? By the same token, Dillon Jones has played 3 straight Summer League games, and he's looked really good in all 3, even if the box score lags behind a little bit. He showed you how he can impact the game as a player. He showed you his all-around nature. Like, how much more are you going to put him out there? He's for sure going to play against the Raptors, I think. But past that, what does it look like? Same thing for AJ Mitchell. He's been awesome. He was the offensive engine on the game 3. What does that look like, in terms of in Vegas? Whenever you're playing Toronto and you're playing Miami and Phoenix and Golden State. And then Keontae Johnson. I mean, this is a guy that you spent a second-round pick on last year. He doesn't have a roster spot right now. As it's projected to go right now, the Thunder kind of don't have a two-way spot to give him. They do have an open roster spot on their standard contract. But, like, he's playing for a showcase in the sense of, like, a showcase for the Thunder, a showcase for every other team. And he's spent last year in the G League playing really well, playing really good basketball. So, like, watching him grow will be fun. Watching Adam Flagler grow will be fun. As he gets further and further removed from that knee injury, which he talked about on our show last week, like, he's gotten better defensively. Can he continue to improve on that side of the court despite his, raw height and kind of that aspect of his game? So there's still some fun things to watch. We're still going to cover it all. And I just don't think that the Oos G League, Summer League shutdown is quite the notable notoriety storyline that many people do. But that's where we're at on that. As far as, Salt Lake City Summer League, I thought AJ Mitchell and Dillon Jones were awesome. I thought Oos got back into gear and showed you what he was playing like with the Blue in those last 2 games. And then from there, I really liked Kyler Kelly. I think that it's important that you watch Kyler Kelly, not for any Thunder reasons, in the sense of, like, the Oklahoma City Thunder, like, on the court, but in the sense of, like, player development. Kyler Kelly is going to be important. If you can secure him in the G League, whenever you're trying to develop AJ Mitchell and Dillon Jones, like 2 on-ball players, he is an on-ball player's best friend, and he will really help them grow and develop in that area. So, like, I really think that, like, watching him and the way that he operates with ball handlers, that stuff matters. And, like, whenever you're filling out your G League roster, yes, you're going to try to cash your net and try to get some treasure, right? And try to find diamonds in the rough and try to maximize your roster. But you're also trying to maximize that roster to accomplish your goals. And I think that the goal of the Blue this year will be to develop these 2 rookies for however much they're down there. And a guy like Kyler Kelly helps you do that. So watching him will be fun. And then everybody seems to love Jack Golke, who can light it up from 3. Do you get a Jack Golke 3rd game of Vegas 10-3 night? Maybe, possibly. We'll see, and we'll cover it all. Again, thank you so much for watching, for listening. Subscribe on Locked On Thunder YouTube. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So you can go find any local team, including your next listen, which is Locked On OU or Locked On OSU, the Pokes and the Sooners. It's almost college football season. We mentioned college football's video game coming out soon. You can go see what the Sooners and Pokes are up to over there on Locked On Sooners, Locked On Pokes. Until then, be good and be good to one another.